In order to be successful on big mature whitetail, properly understanding buck bedding has got to be at the top of the list. Today I want to dive into, while I was out in Kansas scouting these plains kind of grounds, so you got Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, the Dakotas, states like that, you'll find very similar beds to what I was finding here. So let's get into it. And if you have any questions about this, don't hesitate to leave me a comment down below. And as always, please hit that like and subscribe button. So I'm going to start here with this particular location. You can tell I've got multiple beds marked up here. There's a bunch of scrapes and rubs kind of along this area. And I want to kind of show you this because it'll help you see the pattern that I was seeing. The best buck beds that I was finding are going to be out here on these little bit of points at the end of those fingers, out here in this little area. Each one of these locations, they are up on some kind of perch. So that they're either, I found multiple beds up on rocks, up on some kind of overlooking area where behind them they've got a lot of cover to their back so they can have the wind blowing up behind them, but it is open out in front of them. They can see down below them. It's super easy escape routes in any direction. And each one of these beds is a perfect resemblance of exactly that. All right, so let's start with this one here. You got 3 beds around this point, and I've got a rub marked here. It definitely was a buck bed. This bed in particular was super close to this rub. There's a lot of sign and movement down into this ditch. But how these beds are placed, these two are very similar when it comes to what wind direction that they're going to see. Each one of these beds, they can overlook this bottom. They are set up on some kind of perch overlooking this bottom, okay? And behind them, they've got really good solid cover that they're backing up to so they could smell anything coming behind them and have cover to escape down into the bottoms if they smelt something behind them. And if they see anything in front of them, they've got easy escape patterns to each direction. And these as well. Each direction, they had easy escape patterns, weird oddball spots that it almost seemed like the sign was dispersing. And then, boom, you found a bed and you found a rub with it and you were good to go. The main movement patterns were down below. So don't stop when that sign gets to dispersing. Kind of continue on out and get to these points and see if there's a bed there. Sometimes there will be, sometimes there won't. And that's okay, because finding a location not to hunt is just as important as finding a location to hunt. So not every one of these points is going to be a win, and that's perfectly okay with me. I just want to find the points that matter, the ones that will hold the buck that I'm after, and those are the ones I want to focus on. Now, this location right here was really cool. This location, he was actually bedding around, completely encircling a massive hedge tree. This hedge tree had 4 or 5 beds actually encircling this hedge tree. So he could keep that tree at his back and keep the wind, no matter what direction the wind was coming from, he can see out in front of him, and he has that tree behind him to wind whatever's coming behind him. So that bed was actually really cool because he could lay in that same spot no matter what the wind direction was, because he was placed up on a little bit of a perch, just a little bit of a knob at the end of that ditch there, and see everything out in front of him, no matter if it was in the field out here or down into the ditch walking up that tree line. And kind of the third location that I want to show you here to give you an idea is this one right here, the purple bed. Again, you see it is out kind of at the end of the ditch, end of the point. And even if you look at it, it's a little bit of an island of trees right there. So he's kind of set off by himself. And the cool thing though is this ditch had consistent scraping all the way up this ditch, but it was very open. There wasn't a whole lot of really good understory and cover for them, so that's why the bedding really didn't pick up yet. And the rubs didn't pick up until the underbrush really thickened up. So you see these two beds, or not beds, but rubs right here. That is about where the underbrush really started to thicken up. And that's when I started to get excited. I'm like, okay, there's something here. It's something close. Now let's keep working to see if we can find this bed. And I saw this little island of trees out here. And I'm like, you know what? Let's take a walk out there and let's just see where it is. Because those rubs and trails kind of led to that spot. So just picked a trail, followed it. I ended up jumping a couple pretty good looking deer out of that spot. Obviously it was the time that they would have been shed, so if that they were bucks, I wouldn't have been able to tell, but they look like it just from body size. Aside from that, that's about all I had to go off of. So there's a very good chance that they were bucks. The only thing I didn't like is that there wasn't any rubs in there, but that's something to pay attention to as well and be careful about while you're doing your postseason scouting. Is don't find the beds that they're bedding in right now. Don't key in on those too much. Be careful about those. You want to find the beds that they are using during the fall. So typically those beds are going to have rubs in the very close proximity, if not directly next to the bed. Most bucks are going to have rubs directly next to the bed. So that's where this one was a little bit, I want to be careful about it, but what I liked about it and what made me excited was that these rubs and these scrapes were so close to that bed. Made me feel a little bit better that there's a good possibility of a buck bedding in that particular island, even though there's a chance it might not be that those bucks, if they were bucks. Those bucks that I saw, that's okay. There could be a buck bedding in that particular location. I hope that kind of opened your guys' eyes a little bit while you're scouting. Use this during your summer scouting if you've got some velvet hunts coming up. I know North Dakota is open for velvet. South Dakota, if you're a resident, you're open to a possible velvet hunt. And maybe even Nebraska. I even think Nebraska is open for velvet. So keep an eye on that. If you're hunting these plains type of areas, hit these ditches. Don't be afraid to walk out to the ends of those fingers and see if there's a bed out there. And follow the sign, follow the trails. Just let the deer tell you where they're at and how they're using the property. It really could open your eyes to a lot of really good hidden movement, and that be the reason that you are the one killing that buck and not everybody else. So thanks for watching, y'all. Hope you liked that video. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on the next one.